You're listening to the premier podcast for men who want to not only be better with women, but want to be better men in general. This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host, Paul Bauer.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of Come On Man. If you haven't done so already, please like, fave, subscribe, hit those notifications. Leave a comment below as well. That really helps us in the algorithm. So just comment the word comment. That will help me out so much. If you are listening on your favorite audio platform of choice and they have a 5-star review system like Apple, give us a 5-star review and actually write out why you like the show. Again, that helps us with the algorithm. It puts us in front of more men. All right, guys, this week was a fun conversation. Oh my God. I think like earlier this year, I had on a porn star, Eric Everhard. And man, I never thought, like if you talked to me 10 years ago and said, hey, you're going to be talking with porn stars and stuff, I'd be like, get out of here. Why would I do that? And here we are. So I have my second porn star on this week. It's the famous Stirling Cooper. He's not just a porn star either. He's a former high-class male companion, author, and the world's #1 sex coach for men. And man, he dropped some really good stuff in this episode, if I do say so myself. And he's just a solid dude. Solid dude. We had originally scheduled this, I think like on a Thursday or a Wednesday. I can't remember. But when we scheduled it, he reached out to me that morning. He's like, hey, we might not be able to do this because all the power is out in my area. And he sent me like a video message, and he's like walking around showing me like the fridge and stuff, like the power's out. Like I would have just taken his word for it, but he's a solid dude. So we rescheduled for the following week, which was good because the week that we were initially supposed to record this, I ended up having COVID, which by the way, guys, I mean, sure, like there's a lot of people that had it worse than me, but I cannot believe we shut down the whole world for this thing. It was really bad for like 3 days. But other than that, it was just like mildly annoying for me. And even on the 3 days where I was like feverish and stuff like that, I still went out jogging. Guys. So them shutting down the whole country for this was complete bullshit. But I digress because you're not allowed to say that on social media, right? You can't have an alternative viewpoint to what the narrative is. All right, I'm going to stop talking about it before I get canceled. And I'm going to bring you a more fun conversation with porn legend Stirling Cooper right after this. If you guys are anything like me, you're tired of going to grocery stores, buying grooming products that are designed for men, but they just suck, or they smell girly. I also hate going to expensive department stores like Macy's and getting cologne that makes me smell like a little bitch. I want to smell like a fucking man, and I think most women want their men to smell manly as well. And that's why I've partnered with Duke Cannon. Duke Cannon has products for men. They have products that make you smell manly as hell. They have big ass bars of soap. They have really thick body wash. They have beard oil and beard balm. Hair care products. My favorite is their big ass bar of soap. Smells like naval supremacy. It is awesome. And I also buy all of their liquid cologne. It really makes you smell manly, and they have tons of different fragrances. In fact, I have some for each day of the week. Also, when you purchase from Duke Cannon, some of your purchase goes to help out veterans. And if you use duke.comeonmanpod.com, link is in the description, you get free shipping. Win-win. This stuff smells so goddamn good, and the ladies love it. Trust me. Again, that's duke.comeonmanpod.com. The link is in the show notes. All right, joining me this week is award-winning adult film star, former high-class male companion, author, and the world's #1 sex coach for men, at least according to his Twitter bio. It's Stirling Cooper. What's going on, man? Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, man. It's good to be here.
So I saw the other day on Twitter that before you got into the adult film business that you used to run a paleo meal prepping service. How does one go from paleo meal prep into adult films?
Well, okay. So it was actually more of me, like I was doing the paleo stuff because funny story, man. It's weird how these things happen. I went through this sort of really, really harsh breakup, right? And me being the kind of petty guy that I am, I'm like, you know what would make like really, give me some satisfaction is like completely transforming my body and getting like super jacked and ripped. And so I dived into a few different authors. Mark Sisson, Mark Hyman are a couple that really, really stuck out for me. Got into the paleo diet, got super jacked. Got like, an 8-pack for the first time in my life and shit like that. And I was like, damn, this is pretty fucking cool. And at that exact same time, I was in the swingers scene and I was meeting a bunch of different girls in the swingers scene who were escorts. And they were like, you've got the look, you're pretty charming, blah, blah, blah. You should give this a go. And I didn't really think much of it. And I kept hearing that again and again. And so what ended up happening was simultaneously, I got into escorting and I did that at the night times. And then during the daytime, I ended up taking my passion for paleo and the paleo diet and turning that into a business during the daytime. So by day, I'm a respectable businessman. And then by night, I'm, boning dudes' wives in front of them for money.
That's interesting. Do you still follow and recommend paleo?
I absolutely recommend it. Yeah. It's, and a lot of people get paleo kind of like, I think it's something it's not. They think it's sort of this super restrictive, like the be all end all. Like the way I look at it, man, it's look, just eat more meat and vegetables and you're okay. Like it doesn't have to be much more complicated than that, but people try to make it super complicated.
Yeah.
And once you start cutting, and I'm not sitting here pretend like I don't fuck up and cheat,
Yeah.
pretty regular, especially the busier I get, right? Because sticking to a diet and a meal plan is pretty time and focus intensive, right? But if you want to lose a ton of body fat, I have never seen a quicker way of doing it for many, many people. Some people, they don't like it, but personally, man, it's like steak and veggies, steak and broccoli, like it's, and you can have plenty of fat with it, like butter, olive oil, like you have a good time. So it's bacon, like you're not really missing out on much by indulging in it. And then you combine that, and especially I'm a big fan of the book, The Primal Blueprint. And in that, he kind of encapsulates, that book doesn't get enough credit. It's a fantastic book. And in that book, he kind of encapsulates more of the lifestyle elements on top of the diet. So like making sure you're getting out in the sun a bunch, making sure you're lifting heavy shit, making sure you're sprinting occasionally. And for me, that was the big thing that moved the needle, was getting my diet right, cutting out sugar is the biggest one, like cutting out sugar and cutting out bread. That's 80% of the work there. And then incorporating sprints like a couple of times a week as a pretty regular thing. And then incorporating like heavy lifts like squats and deadlifts. And dude, you don't need much more than that. And you can get fucking jacked, basically effortlessly. Like I say effortlessly, but there's not a lot of intense focus and scheduling and planning and meal prep and doesn't have to be as complicated as people make it out to be. And our bodies are kind of designed around that. They're designed to move in that kind and get that kind of nutrition. So personally, it worked wonders for me, and it's worked wonders for people I've recommended it to. Yeah,
I just had Jack Napier on a while back, and we were talking about diets. And there's a pro wrestler that I'm a big fan of, and I always quote him because his name is Brian Cage, and he says all diets work if you work them. If you're, it's all about consistency, but they all work as long as you're consistent with it. But I've watched pretty much like every food documentary on the planet, and each diet has their own studies saying why theirs is the best and stuff. So it sort of just comes down to like, okay, what works for you, I guess. And I find like just the way it's designed, like paleo just seems like the best possible diet out there. I'm more of a keto guy, which is kind of like paleo, but
exactly.
yeah,
they're all kind of similar, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's more like the underlying principles of like, look, get good, high quality proteins, get some goddamn vegetables in your diet, you know, and try to cut out is if you're trying specifically, just trying to just lose body fat. If you cut out like these high processed carbs, you're going to start to lose a ton of body fat and a ton of water weight. You're going to get the body you want. It's not that but the reason I like paleo is because I found it easy to stick to, you know, because I like eating bacon and I like eating steak. I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to stick to it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Changing gears here. So I'm assuming that Stirling Cooper is a professional name. How did you get it?
That is correct. Yeah. You know what? Everyone thinks it's from that show Mad Men.
Okay.
And it's not. 100% not. I'd never even heard of the show Mad Men. Because if anyone has watched that TV show Mad Men, Stirling Cooper Draper Price is the name of the advertising agency they have. And I only found that out after I'd picked my stage name. Everyone was like, oh, you mean like Mad Men? I'm like, what? And then I had to go and look it up and watch. And I'm a big fan of the show. I like the show. So, honest to God, I did a poll. I came up with like a bunch of different names, like different combinations of names. And I went to like all the girls that I was fucking at the time. And I texted them, okay, these 4 names, which one's the sexiest? And I just did a poll on it. And they were like, Stirling Cooper's the sexiest one. I'm like, all right, that's the name I'm picking.
So, focus group.
Yeah, focus group.
Okay. All right. So one of my listeners, Nate Howard, shout out Nate. How are you doing? He wanted me to ask if you ever watch your own movies and critique yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how you get good at the job. I mean, it's kind of, so when I'm doing my own content, you know, stuff that if I do like a content share with a girl and it's for like, you know, my OnlyFans or my mini vids or something like that, I'm editing it myself. And so I'm obviously watching it as I'm editing it. And then I'm like, could have done that better, could have done this better. But then when I'm doing a professional scene, I look at the trailer on Pornhub or something like that. Yeah, I'll sit there and critique, especially in my early career, like the first couple of years of my career, I was trying to find like, okay, well, what can I do better? What are other dudes doing? How do they make that particular angle work really well? It's this weird thing that most people don't appreciate in the porn industry is like how much attention to detail we put into like angles and positions for the camera.
Yeah, because you got to make it look good for the audience.
Exactly. So
it's not always functional, right?
If you can learn like just a tiny little tweak in like your foot position or your arm or your hips, and like to make your life way easier to get the shot, like it saves you so much energy on set, and you can give a better performance. So yeah, little things like that. You're always looking for like an edge. Got it.
How long's like a typical shoot usually, right? I mean, is it like a full on hour you're filming just for like a 20-minute scene?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of scene we're shooting. So like there's scripts with like dialogue and stuff where, you know, I personally, I got cast a lot in, you know, what do you call them? Like pornos with a storyline, with a plot to them, you know? So we're on set for like 8 hours, like at least, doing all the dialogue, getting all the different key shots before we even start with like the sex scene part. So for that kind of a scene, yeah, I'm on set for like 8 hours. But for something more simple, like what we would call gonzo, which is basically just guy and a girl on a couch, go. You know,
Okay.
that you're probably only on set for like 3 or 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours max, if you really smash through it. Like the sex in total, yeah, for like a 30-minute sex scene, we're probably fucking for like 1.5 hours ish.
Okay.
Yeah, because we got to do all the sex still. So people don't realize this. Like we actually have sex twice. So we don't ejaculate twice, but we have sex twice. So we do all the photos first, and then we get dressed again, and then we film it on camera with the video. So, and we do all that sort of like back to back. So
yeah,
while we're excited, we keep the we keep the momentum going, we keep the energy going, and we kind of use the photographs as a way of planning out, okay, we're going to do this position over here, and then the camera's going to get this. It's kind of like a test run before the video starts. That's why if you do it that way, you can kind of go through the sex scene seamlessly without any cuts, without like stopping and talking with your partner, because that's the thing that we try to avoid while we're filming is the stopping. So the camera can get this like really smooth shot. The director gets all the shots he likes. Because sometimes there can be like a bit of miscommunication between you and the girl, and you've got to try and do this. Like you might want her to say like bend over, or you might want her to get on top of you, right? And you've got to try and communicate this to her without actually saying it, so that it looks this smooth, seamless, realistic transition in sex.
Does it suck like when you're like you're right in the middle of it, and then the director's like, "All right, cut. You guys aren't doing it right. You guys need to, I don't know," because you're sort of like in the groove, right?
Yeah, dude, that is the pain in the ass in the job. Is that the stopping and the starting is what makes it difficult. Like you'll get that occasionally, especially if you're not if you've worked with a director for a while. If you and a director have good rapport and you understand how each other work, then it's seamless. But the first time or the first couple of times you work with a new director, that can happen a fair bit because you don't understand each other. It's more about, it's really the relationship between the directors and the male talent is the most important one, because they have to kind of because the dude leads the scene, right? He's the one in charge. I had this cool analogy about like a sex scene. A sex scene is like a Ferrari, okay? And the woman is like the sexy, sleek exterior, the leather seats, the colors, the dashboard, the logo. But the dude is the engine underneath the hood that no one actually sees. But he makes it work, right? And so he has to have this good understanding with the director who's filming it, because he knows what I'm going to do next, or the way I like to shoot, or how I like to move around during sex scenes, and I know what shots the director wants or what shots the director needs, so we can work kind of seamlessly. Because the biggest pain in the ass is a director who's like get you to stop and start all over and over and over again, because it takes the momentum out of the sex, right? And you start to get in your head, and if you get in your head, your boner goes away. If you get frustrated, your boner goes away. So you're kind of fighting against those forces the whole time.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, the analogy with the Corvette and the engine, I mean, that's sort of, I mean, if a guy's any good at all, that sort of goes hand in hand with just regular sex ed, right? Because the guy really should be leading the interaction.
Absolutely. Good sex is 100% determined by the guy. 100%. Like you can have, because think of it this way, like, okay, I could be with the most beautiful woman in the world. She gives the best blowjob on the planet. Maybe she's like an absolute freak. But if I can't get a boner, then the sex ain't happening.
Right.
Right. But if I'm on point, if I'm there, you know, giving it my all, well, then together we can have fantastic sex. But it's 100% determined by the guy's ability to be there, to stay hard, to contribute, to lead the interaction. Because that's something I teach a lot of guys, is this idea of being in control and leading the sexual interaction. Don't try to be this passive guy in the bedroom. I try to coax guys away from the more vanilla, passive style of sex that you probably see in like romantic comedies and Hallmark movies and you know, romance films and stuff, and lead them towards this more kind of dominant, aggressive style of sex. Because if I'm being perfectly honest, women respond extremely well to it.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I feel like a lot of guys, and I don't know if it's like, you know, the way they're raised, you know, societal conditioning, but there's a lot of guys that want their women to initiate sex more. They want their woman to be more aggressive because it like sort of makes them feel like, oh, well, she really wants it then. But on the flip side, like women are a passive bunch. Like they sort of just want to show up and have the man lead. And once you realize that, you're going to have a much better time in the bedroom, I think.
Oh, absolutely, man. This fantasy in men's heads of the woman being the sexual aggressor is something that's been put into their head from porn.
Mm.
Like that's a porno thing.
Yeah.
The the pizza delivery guy who gets hit on, or the plumber who gets hit on by the housewife, all this kind of stuff. That them being the sexual aggressor in that way, yeah, it's a fantasy. And it's cool to here's the thing, but that's you can get to that point in your relationship with a woman where she is being sexually aggressive, where she is like she needs your dick like all the time, and she's pretty adamant about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to the relationship doesn't start there. It starts with you being the guy who lays the pipe, with you being the guy who's giving her the kind of dick she wants to be receiving, aggressive, masculine, dominant sex, so that she becomes addicted to it. So she wants more of it. So then she'll start, initiating it more with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. Women want to be led. They want to be with a guy who's got his shit together, with a guy who's going to take charge, because that's the natural male-female dynamic. Like I take care of you. I take care of us. You take care of the kids, right? I keep us safe. I keep us protected. I keep the resources coming in, and you take care of the kids. They want to be able to look up to a man, mm-hmm. not just sexually, like just when they're on their knees, but in general in the relationship, they want to be able to look up to the guy and be like, "Damn, that's my man. I'm sorted. I'm safe."
Mm-hmm.
And the bedroom is this little microcosm of relationships in general. I always say, because if you're in a relationship that's like kind of sexist, or if you're in a marriage there's a lot of bickering and a lot of fighting going on, well, the dynamic's obviously off. And I've been able to help a lot of dudes correct that dynamic, get their relationship sparked up again like they were on their honeymoon, by just fixing things in the bedroom and getting the dude to take charge and be a bit more aggressive in the bedroom. And miraculously, she stops nagging again. Miraculously, she's happier, she's more pleasant because she's getting dick down.
Mm-hmm.
And now the relationship dynamic's fixing itself. It's more natural. It's like, surprise, surprise, like these things are related,
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of, you said that the fantasy of the aggressive female sort of comes from porn. Another listener, Lloyd Meikle, wants to know if you watch porn yourself, and if so, how much? And you did say that you watch it a little bit to see what the other guys are doing, or at least you used to.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely watch my own stuff when it comes out. Like I said, I critique my own stuff. Not so much, not really anymore. When I was starting out, I was watching it. I'd watch like dudes who were better, like the guys who were the male performer of the year that year. I'd be like, all right, what is this guy doing? Like, look at his energy, the way he's interacting with the chick, the positions he's doing. Like, I'd be looking for things like this, not looking at it to like jerk off. I'd be looking at it from like an artist kind of perspective
with a pad and paper.
Yeah. Like, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
So that's primarily what I was using porn for back in the day. But yeah, I mean, look, when I was a teenager, absolutely, I jerked off all the time when I was a teenager, and it's funny because I've actually had sex, I think, with like 5 or 6 women in my career that I used to masturbate to when I was a teenager.
Did you bring that up with them on set? I'm just curious.
No,
hey, I used to jerk off to you.
Dear God, no.
So great to work with you. Okay.
No, that was I would never. I don't think even after the fact I told them. They don't even know it. But because I'm 35. Like, okay. I didn't get into the porn industry until I was like 30.
Really? Oh, okay.
So I only got in when I was 30. So these girls are all my age, and they're still working. They're the MILF performers that are working, that started off as, young 21-year-old girls, mm-hmm. and now they're MILFs, but they've been in this for the whole time. So I come in, I've ended up working with them, but we're basically the same age. So it's like, that's why I'm able to work with girls that I masturbated to when I was 18, 19, 20 or whatever, because they were working the whole time.
Got it. Okay. Oh, that's fascinating. So you have several ebooks available The Guide to Performance Anxiety, How to Seal the Deal, and your latest, How I Grew My Dick and Other Porn Secrets.
Yeah.
So first off, you can actually grow your dick. I saw a urologist on TikTok saying you can't really do it, but you say differently. So what's the Cliff's Notes of how that works? Like Swedish made penis enlarger pump or something? Or
yeah, so there's two different things that are going on. So, well, there's three. So you can, if you're talking just length, there's two different mechanisms that can increase your length. And then if you want to just increase the girth, there's really one thing going on. And it's basically the same principle that you would apply to like muscle growth, except it's not quite the same because it's not like a bicep muscle, right? You have to cause like micro tears in the penile tissue as you expand it or stretch it, and then those micro tears get healed. And you're not doing it to the extreme where your dick won't work and you're actually hurting yourself. It takes time. This ain't some sort of magic pill thing. And this kind of pisses me off is that I see like you scroll through Pornhub and you'll see these little ads going on in the top right hand corner, and it's all these like dick pills, like take this secret African herb and your dick will get bigger. No, it won't. That ain't gonna happen. It's not how life works. It's like, for me, it took me like 8 months of consistent daily effort to gain like 1.2 inches on my length. This is at the very, very beginning of my career.
Yeah.
That takes focus. You tell it, but it's much easier to sell a guy, oh, take this magical pill and then your dick's gonna get bigger. That's a much easier sell for guys because most dudes don't want to fucking do any work. Mm-hmm. But I've done it, and I have you can go on my website, you'll see the photographic evidence. In my book, you'll see the evidence. And my students have replicated the results. But there's two, when it comes to length, there's two kind of things going on. One is, again, similar, same principle, like the tearing of the penile tissue, stretching it, time under tension, like you need like consistent time under tension. And the second thing you can do is you can stretch the ligaments that actually attach the penile shaft to the pubic bone. So there's a ligament that attaches that, and you can stretch that, and that allows the penile shaft to come out further from the actual body, because there's a whole bunch of the penis that's inside the body that's not actually outside of it. Now, when dudes go and get penis enlargement surgery, what the doctors are actually doing is they're severing those ligaments that attach the penile shaft to the pubic bone, and it just allows it to drop. Problem is, it doesn't give you any more like length when it's erect. It just makes it hang lower when it's in a flaccid state. So you get this like, okay, it's impressive in the shower room, but it doesn't actually do anything for you when the time comes. So that's why you have to work on this sort of time and attention concept and stretch it, cause these tiny micro tears over a long period of time, and then eventually your shaft will get. But it's not an easy thing. It's not. I'm not going to sit here and pretend. Yeah, like I said, like it's.
Yeah, you said about a year it took you.
I was doing it for like 8 months to get like 1.2. I've got students who give me results in the 6 months in, they're gaining like half an inch, and then like others get everybody's body kind of responds slightly differently. So I'm not going to sit here and say you will absolutely gain this much in this amount of time, because it depends upon where you're starting from, right? If you have a smaller penis, you have a longer penis. Is there more to work with? There's a lot of different factors. Do you have a thicker penis? Do you have a thinner penis? A thinner one is going to stretch easier. A thicker one is going to take longer to stretch because there's more penile tissue to repair as you're stretching, right? So all these things have to be considered, but it's totally doable, and it's kind of another thing kind of pisses me off is that when I talk about this openly on Twitter, you know, I'll have some naysayers in my industry come at me for it, and I'm like, look, like women can go out and get a breast implant, and no one's, you know, laughing at them for it. But a dude goes and puts like consistent effort into improving like one part of his body that most dudes don't think can even change, and he sees results, and you're gonna laugh at him. It's like, come on, bit of a double standard here. But look, dudes, when you're able to like increase like the length and the girth of your wang, it's a bit of a confidence boost. You're like, oh shit! Like now you feel like you're packing more meat, and you feel like you got, you know, a lot more to work with. So it's kind of cool. But it's not the only thing I teach in that ebook. That's just one chapter of the entire book.
Right.
So I also, in that whole book, I go through like, you know, increasing bonus strength, increasing testosterone levels. I talk a little bit about performance anxiety in that book too. I talk about sex techniques. I go over like a bunch of stuff that I basically learned through my career.
Sure. What, I mean, I imagine you're not doing these exercises anymore. Like, why don't you set a ridiculous goal? Like, I want a 12-inch.
You know what? Why not?
Let's just fucking go for it.
So what I did was I started doing that in the very, very beginning of my career.
Yeah.
So I started my career in Australia, of all places. And there's not a big porn industry in Australia. There's like 2 companies who shoot guy-girl porn in all of Australia. So in the space of like 6 months, I maybe only, my first 6 months, I probably only shot like 10 or 12 scenes because there's not much work. Then I moved to England and I started picking up more work because there's more of a scene in England. And then eventually I made my way to America where I was shooting all the time. So I had the first year of my career, I actually had a lot of downtime, right? Because I had time. Okay, I've got like 1 scene on Friday. Okay, I can spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday doing my exercises, working on my length, and then I can take the day off on Friday to actually shoot. Because you can't do these exercises if you're shooting porn all the time. So what ended up happening was once I moved to America and I started picking up a bunch of work, I just didn't have time to sit down and do the exercises because I had my dick had to be erect and on set that same day. So.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
That's basically why I stopped the exercise after I got into like a year into the industry, and then kept working, and then started teaching guys stuff. And now I've taken like a step back from shooting. So it's more of a nowadays I focus more on like the coaching side of things. You're absolutely right. I actually have the intention of putting together like a group of dudes, like picking like 10 dudes who want to focus exactly on this, and like mentoring them for like a year. And we all take measurements at the beginning, take measurements at the end, and we all do it together in this non-homoerotic way.
Yeah, very scientific.
Yeah, I've got a science background, you know. I have a double degree in chemistry, so I understand, like, okay, here's how we can actually legitimately prove that this shit works and put this debate to rest. Because there's a whole bunch of videos on YouTube running around saying this sort of stuff ain't possible, and it's like I know it's possible, and my students know it's possible. It's just I'd like for there to be, you know, let's just put this shit to rest.
Yeah, more of a maybe a mainstream consensus on it. Like, okay, there is some science here. This does work.
Because you'll get urologists coming out and be like, no, it's not possible, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, you know what? The bro science, has a lot more like typical success than mainstream science. You know what I mean?
In a lot of things. Yeah.
In a lot of different things. Because it's people who are actually doing it. Like the experiment of one is super, super useful. Like I look at my body as like a giant experiment. Like what can I do that's going to optimize my personal results for me? And the thing with like people who are very theoretical and, you know, maybe not trying to shit on doctors and PhDs and whatnot, but they're focusing so much on the theory and like past scientific research, they're not actually out there experimenting and trying anything new themselves. And I know this because I come from a research background. Like I've got an honors degree. I did research as a chemist when I was at university, so I understand it. And guys who go out and actually try stuff are the ones that are making new groundbreaking finds. I mean, look at the bodybuilding industry. Guarantee all the different, like the dudes who get absolutely roided up, they know so much about the body and the way hormones interact way more than your average doctor does, because they've got skin in the game. They're out there doing it themselves and experimenting and testing and communicating with other men who are out there doing it themselves and communicating and testing and experimenting. And that little community comes to like a consensus on what actually works and what actually doesn't. But it's only because they're trying it. It's only because they're experimenting that they're able to come to that consensus.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually get that a lot in like my TikTok videos, because I'll put videos out about, you know, sexual dynamics and dating and, you know, basically stuff that's worked for me. And you'll always get these like feminists in there saying like, do you have a degree or something? Or you just got a guy with an opinion? I'm like, look, I read a lot. I interview like top guys in the business. But most importantly is I go out and I test to see if this works. And I can observe that this shit works. So
yeah, observational experience, man. It's
yeah.
you get that a lot on Twitter. I'm not gonna lie. I get that a lot on Twitter. You make an observation, you've had some experience, you make an observation, you put the observation out there, and then some smart ass is gonna jump in behind it and be like, where the studies, man?
Right.
The study is my life and my friends' lives, and us actually living a life and doing something and seeing how the world reacts to it.
Yeah, very well said. So I think I saw in one of your videos that your book also covers how to increase your ejaculate volume. Now, without giving too much away, obviously people should read your book, but I mean, how do you do that? I saw on TikTok once that eating celery is supposed to help. I mean, is that a part of it? Like basically what you're eating?
Dude, that is an old school porno trick. Super old school. Like I got that. I got the celery thing is 100% correct. I got that from Kieran Lee, old school porn star, English guy. And he got it from Peter North. So what Peter North used to do. Peter North is
Peter North's secret.
If anyone is familiar with Peter North, they'll know he's like famous for having a huge volume of ejaculate. And basically, if there's one thing I'm known for during my scenes, it's a similar thing, and that's the key to it. That's what. There's a few other things you can add to it as well, but that guarantee you right now. And I know this. Like I used to teach this to my basketball teammates back in Australia when I was first starting out. I learned this really early on. And I remember teaching it to one of my teammates because we would play like once a week. So I saw him on the Wednesday. We'd finish the game. We were sitting around, talking after the game. And I'm like, yo, dude, like eat like 2 sticks of celery, right? The night before, and then bang your missus the next day. And you tell me what happens. And he was like, all right, cool. And then I saw him the next week. And he was like, dude, my missus, she just got like glazed like a donut. I'm like, got ya.
Perfect. Oh, that's so funny. So about 2 stalks the night before, and
that's what I would do. I did 2 before, like the night before a scene. So 2 stalks of celery, and then it's like I don't like celery. Celery tastes like shit.
Yeah, I agree.
But it works.
Fascinating.
Job, man.
Okay.
I don't know, and I can't tell you why. I've tried so hard to find the reason, but I cannot find any. Like I said, I can't find any scientific study on it. But I guarantee you it works for every single man I've told this trick to. So
every dude listening right now is running to the store to buy celery so that they can glaze their women. So your other ebook on performance anxiety, and then you said your bigger ebook also has stuff on performance anxiety also. You said you did a video the other day that there's a difference between performance anxiety and erectile dysfunction. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And this is one of the biggest kind of mistakes a lot of dudes make. So erectile dysfunction is about the plumbing. It's about the blood flow, your blood flow, hormone levels, arterial plaques in your blood vessels in the penis or in the blood vessels in your heart, your cardiovascular health. Performance anxiety is purely what's going on up here and the way your body is the way your mind is influencing your body. So it's important to separate those two, because what happens is a lot of young dudes will experience, say, about the performance anxiety, and they'll think they have erectile dysfunction. They'll Google erectile dysfunction and they'll be like, oh, there's something wrong with me. There's something physically wrong with me. And then they'll, go get a Viagra at like the age of 18 or something. And then the worst part is they'll go back to the bedroom again. They'll pop the little blue pill and it won't do anything because they're still in their head. They've still got performance anxiety. Mm-hmm. And they think, fuck this. Now there's really something wrong with me. But they were misdiagnosing themselves to start with. So if you're a young man and you're healthy and you're not obese, you're in shape, you've got, good testosterone levels, you've got good blood flow and cardio, I guarantee you don't have erectile dysfunction. If you're having boner issues, it's going to be performance anxiety. So the first thing you want to understand, first thing is understanding that difference, right? Because I've seen that on sets as well. I've seen that on like gangbang, blow bang sets where that's where a lot of new male talent gets tested out. Is these kind of blow bang sets where it's like one chick, 8 dudes, and it's just giving them all blowjobs. And so it's the worst scene, by the way, because you have to spend like 5 minutes at the back of a queue waiting for like 30 seconds of a BJ, and then you go back to the end of the queue again. You're just waiting around. Sucks. But I've seen on sets like that where you'll have a new guy. He'll come on the set. You can tell he's popped a little blue pill because his face is all flush and red, and he's sitting there with a limp dick because of the performance anxiety. Mm-hmm. The little blue pill, Viagra and Comagra and Cialis and this kind of stuff. It's important for men to understand they don't give you an erection. They help you maintain one for longer and a bit stronger. But it doesn't give you the erection. This is what gives you the erection in the first place, your mind, right? That sensation of being aroused. That is purely your mind initiating it in the first place. So when you have performance anxiety, when you're nervous and you're in your head too much, you can't allow that to actually happen.
Got it. Yeah. I feel like, a lot of dudes are just, they're too in their head a lot. Do you think that porn has something to do with that? You know, like, and what's your take on the whole like no fap movement and avoiding porn and stuff? I see a lot of the guys in the manosphere space, like just shitting all over like no fap and stuff and semen retention. And it's funny, but I do kind of think that there's some guys that could benefit from it, you know?
So my take on that whole thing is I don't actually have a problem with the no fap movement. And the first thing I'll tell a guy, if a dude comes to me with any kind of bedroom performance issue at all, the first thing I tell the guy, stop watching porn. And I say this as a porn star. The first thing I will tell him is stop watching porn, cut it out. Because excessive porn use will play havoc with your dopamine receptors in your brain, right? It's not, I think the technical term is it's not addictive, but it's habit forming. Right? I think technically the term addiction has to do with like substances and things you put in your body, whereas this is just a visual stimulus. So you could say porn is habit forming.
Okay.
And what happens is if I look at like 20 different tabs of porn on my browser and there's 20 different women doing 20 different sex acts, well, that's a ton of stimulus to my brain, a ton of dopamine. And it causes this down regulation of the receptors in your brain. So what happens then is when I'm alone with one naked woman, well, that is nowhere near as novel and exciting to my brain as all this porn was. So we get this whole generation. You can see this. You can look at graphs of like, they call it erectile dysfunction, but it's actually performance anxiety related anyway. Rates of incidences of erectile dysfunction in men under the age of 30 across a time span, and you can pinpoint the exact moment where Pornhub came out, like the early 2000s.
Yeah,
like bang, that's where Pornhub was launched.
When porn became super easily accessible. I mean, when I was a kid, in order to even get porn, you had to hope that one of your buddy's dads had a video somewhere that they could like steal and copy or something for you. Or I had a friend whose dad had a stack of club magazines in his closet, you know, that was it. Like, it wasn't like we had access on our cell phones 24/7, like everyone does now.
Totally different. I remember me and my buddies, so the news agents, the local like magazine shop would dump their old magazines at the tip. And one of my buddies found this stack of like pornos that was dumped at the tip. And me and my buddies, we all went out to the tip and like in the dump and like went rummaging through the trash to find this stack of pornos. And that was our porno collection.
Yeah, that was exciting back then. Yeah, I think I remember. I still remember the first VHS video, and I think I bought it from one of these kids. He stole it from his dad, sold it to me for like $15 or whatever. It was like the 70s porno too. It was just god awful, but but that was it. Like that's what you had.
I personally think that porno was way better in like the 60s, 70s.
Okay.
That is, I don't know. I just like I like the acting. I like the plot lines better than what we do today. So
nobody's watching it for the plot, Sterling.
Look, every time someone skips through the dialogue in a porno, somewhere a porn star's heart breaks because we spent hours doing it.
Okay, fair enough. Next time I'm going to skip through the sex scenes and I'm just going to watch the plot and be like, yeah, this is a cinematic masterpiece.
But finishing the point I was going to say was, yeah, you can plot a graph and you can see like rates of erectile dysfunction in men under 30. And the moment Pornhub came out, that it skyrockets, man.
Wow.
And that's due to like the downregulation of dopamine receptors from excessive porn use. So when it comes to nofap and semen retention and stuff, now semen retention, I'm not a big, I'm like, really? But the nofap thing I'm totally cool with. I'm like, cut that out. Don't jerk off. But instead, so I tell dudes, like, instead of jerking off into a tissue, jerk off on a woman's face. Use that energy. Okay, you're not masturbating anymore, so you're probably going to be a bit hornier. Okay, build that up for a couple of days. That's the whole semen retention argument, which makes sense in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
And then use that energy, that drive to go out and talk to women and start having sex with women. You know, it's not. It doesn't have, you don't have to like completely cut yourself off and be a monk, and because that's actually bad for your prostate. If you just sit there and build up semen for like months on end and don't ejaculate, it's actually bad for your prostate. So find a woman and ejaculate in and on her instead of the tissue. And it's like, I always make the argument, man, like, do you think, and people try to claim shit like, oh, Mike Tyson did semen retention. No, he fucking didn't. Read Mike Tyson's biography, which is a great book, by the way. That motherfucker was having sex left, right, and center. He could not help himself, but he ain't jerking off.
Yeah,
right. He's just having a ton of sex. Dudes who are really successful, dudes who are high value men, right? Dudes at the top of their game, they're getting laid. They're not sitting around like retaining their semen. They're not sitting around jerking off to porn too, which is why I kind of agree with the whole nofap thing. But they ain't sitting around retaining their semen. They're actually having sex with women. So that's kind of where my opinion kind of lands somewhere in the middle.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So you also have a course out called Dirty Talk 101. Now, before I got into this stuff, sexual dynamics and just studying this stuff, I was not Mr. Dirty Talk in the bedroom. You know, my blue pill conditioning said that women didn't really like that. However, I read a book a couple of years ago that I recommend to my listeners all the time called Atomic Attraction that touched on the importance of dirty talk in the bedroom. And now, even if you say something as simple as you like me fucking you, don't you? Even if she doesn't say anything to it, like respond to it or say anything, like she internalizes it. And it really tends to turn women on, I found. So, I mean, is that the sort of thing that you talk about in your course, or you probably get a little more graphic in there?
We get a bit more graphic, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I take guys through a bunch of different types of dirty talk, right?
Yeah.
Because it can be as simple as describing the sensations he's already feeling. Mm. This is why dirty talk is so powerful, is because it's this amplifier for women's arousal. Mm-hmm. Women are very, very, their arousal is very linked to their emotions, right? And if you can, the analogy I look at it this way is like, she's like driving a car. And what you're doing by using dirty talk is you're opening the driver's door, putting her in the passenger seat, and you're stepping into the driver's seat instead of her mind. So by you telling her things, dictating things, describing things to her during the act of sex, you're taking control of her thought patterns and her emotions she's feeling during sex. which is a good thing because you want to make sure you want her to have a good time. You want her to have a good, fun, arousing, exciting experience. So why wouldn't you utilize the most important thing that dictates that, and that's her brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can, basic stuff, the basic way of starting with dirty talk for guys who aren't that familiar, and a lot of dudes aren't comfortable with it. They're a bit nervous around doing it, and I get that. That makes total sense. You know, they don't want to come across creepy. They don't want to come across. They don't want to be embarrassed and say something stupid and say something silly and get judged for it, right? But a real basic starting point is just describing what she's already feeling, right? So if a woman is, you know, like you said, if I'm penetrating a woman, what is she feeling? Okay, how does it feel to have my cock sliding in and out of you like that? Or if you kiss the side of her neck, do you like the way I bite on do you like the way I bite on your neck? Do you like the way I nibble on your neck? Do you like the way I suck on your earlobes? All I'm doing is making her focus on the sensation she's already feeling so that I can amplify it, right? You can do this with sound too. If she's particularly wet downstairs and you can hear that during the thrusting, can you hear how fucking wet you are right now? I'm making her pay attention to a sensation, right?
Yeah.
And what does this do? This brings her present and in the moment. She's not in her head. One of the biggest impediments to the female orgasm is a woman being in her head. And a lot of guys, unfortunately, make the mistake of putting a woman in her head by putting too much pressure on her to orgasm. Mm-hmm. So if a guy, and a woman can tell if you're trying really hard to get her off or you're trying really hard to please her, she can tell. And what that's going to do is that's going to put her in her head, make her kind of self-conscious and just put too much pressure on her. And once she's in that kind of mental state, it's going to be really, really hard for her to orgasm. So instead of doing that, what do? We bring her into the present moment by describing sights, sounds, smells, sensations that she's already feeling. So she pays attention to them and she's more present and she's more aroused, and we amplify that. And that's the basic beginning part of dirty talk that I kind of go over in this course. And then you can go more extreme. You can go into like ownership. You can go into the grading stuff. You can get down the whole BDSM dom sub dynamic kind of path with giving her commands and things like that. And you can have a lot of fucking fun with dirty talk.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, one thing I was thinking of when you were explaining all that is like women. You hear the expression that women fall in love through their ears, and that's a big part of it because it starts getting them in their imagination and they're just like they get totally into it. It's funny. I think a lot of guys that are afraid to do it, they just need to say something once and they will immediately see results from that and they'll just go, oh shit.
It's this thing where once you've seen it, you can't go back. Mm-hmm. Like, and a lot of guys, they just need to see it once. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, they just need that one little experience of one positive experience of them being more dominant, more aggressive, more dropping dirty talk. And they're like, oh shit, I've been missing out on this my whole life. Mm-hmm. I could have been doing this the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the favorite things I love to do all the time is just tell a girl this pussy belongs to me. Mm-hmm. I'm fucking it. And again, there's this most guys who come from a blue pill kind of upbringing have been told, oh, women that no woman would like that. That's degrading. That's misogynistic to imply that you own a woman like that. Well, then try it out.
they respond so well to it. It's it's absurd, actually, I think. So let's we're almost at an hour here. So let's talk about your coaching a little bit and then we can wrap up. What are some of the biggest challenges men are coming to you to learn how to resolve?
The two biggest ones, one is the whole kind of nervousness, performance issues in the bedroom, right? Be that performance anxiety, be that actual genuine erectile dysfunction, be that premature ejaculation, and a lot of younger guys these days have problems with delayed ejaculation, and that's due to excessive porn use primarily. So that is the whole performance problems side of things. And then the other side of things is what we've kind of sort of talking about is learning to be a better lover, learning to be more confident in the bedroom, and learning to be more expressive and being comfortable experimenting with different, perhaps darker, more dominant sexual acts. And that's a big one. A lot of dudes are they feel like, oh, I could never be the kind of guy who spanks a woman, chokes her, pulls her hair, and whispers dirty shit in her ear. Like, they don't feel like that's them.
Mm-hmm.
And they just need, like I said before, they need that one little reference experience of seeing it being received extremely positively from a woman, and their eyes just, their mind is fucking blown. And so that's primarily what I try to teach. I try to help guys with these two different sides of the coin. One, making sure they can have fun properly, the way they want to have fun, and two, making sure that they're perceived as being a fantastic lover by their partner.
Yeah. One thing I say to guys all the time is when it comes to the whole dominance thing is like, dude, 50 Shades of Grey didn't sell millions and millions of copies for no reason. Like, there's a reason why women bought all those copies, not because the author was that great of an author.
Definitely wasn't that.
No, because a lot of women they have that kind of fantasy of being taken. Like, was it you? I think maybe I saw a video where you talked about it was like controlled. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but it's
you're referring to consensual non-consent?
Yeah, something like, yeah, I think that's probably what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. So one of the books I recommend guys read is actually a book called My Secret Garden by Nancy Friday. This is an old book too. So Nancy Friday I think she was a New York Times journalist. And what she did was she put out an advertisement in the New York Times asking women to anonymously write in their deepest, darkest sexual fantasies. And what she did was she just accumulated all of them, the best ones, into this book. And that book is My Secret Garden. And I read this in my early 20s. And I used to think that women were sugar and spice and everything nice. Then I read this book and I'm like, God damn, these women are perverted. There's some twisted, dark shit in there. And a lot of the fantasies in that book revolve around this idea of consensual non-consent. So that's a technical term for great fantasy. We'll just say that.
Okay.
And it revolves around this idea of being taken, but they're being taken in a way in which they're actually safe,
right?
And they're not actually in harm's way, right? Because no woman actually wants to be,
attacked, yeah,
like that, right? But what they do want is this feeling of being taken by a man who's strong and dominant, right? And I liken this to the underlying psychology of this is if you're this dominant man in the bedroom, it shows that you have the capacity for violence. Doesn't mean you're a violent man, and especially does not mean you're violent with her. But it shows that you have the capacity for violence. And if you have the capacity for violence, then you have the ability to protect her and keep her safe. And this is how men demonstrate that to a woman in the bedroom. And that's why it is so arousing to them in the first place, is because it's this deep-seated, like, subconscious thing from an evolutionary past of like, oh, this motherfucker can protect me. So I'm safe with him. I'm attracted to him. I want his babies. Let's go. Right. And I think that's the first stepping stone with guys kind of being comfortable with this, is understanding why it works, understanding why women are so attracted to it. Then it gives them permission to be okay with it. That you're not a bad guy, for maybe engaging in some BDSM or maybe being a bit physically dominant or being some perverted with your dirty talk. You're not a bad guy. right?
Mm-hmm.
You're literally giving her what she actually wants.
Yeah, it's the same concept of like when women sort of like when you go to escalate things and a woman sort of puts up a little resistance. So you do a little push pull, you pull back a little bit. Like that whole idea puts women at ease because they're like, oh, I said no. And he pulled back a little bit, but you still, go at it a little bit later, but that makes them feel safe that, okay, well, if I did say no, he'll stop, and then
that's the key point, right? That's one of the most pivotal moments for a woman when interacting with a new guy is her ability to tell you no or tell you stop and you actually stop and it might not even be during sex. This might be during like before sex, during like when you're flirting, when you're kissing for the first time or whatever. Like that, I actually had this exact experience. Like a woman told me this verbatim when I was in Dubai. We were making out, having a good time. And we're in this place I was staying in my buddy's pool room. There's no one else around, like making out. I got her titty out, started playing with her titty, and she told me to stop. I'm like, cool. Got back, let her tidy up a thing. I didn't keep, I wasn't being more aggressive and pushy.
Right.
Created some distance, kept playing pool, still being lovely and charming and happy, and then not being butthurt by being stopped. That's the important part. Not being the dude who's like, oh, but I invited you back here. I just took you out for drinks and blah, blah. Like not being a butthurt bitch.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool, no problem. Let's keep having fun. Let's keep drinking, keep playing pool, have a good time. Mm-hmm. And then like 20 minutes later, we're having sex.
Yep.
Right. But that, and she told me verbatim after the fact, she's like, you know what? That was the moment I knew I was safe with you. Was when you stopped, when I told you to stop. Super important for a woman to know that you are going to stop if she says stop. Super important. Yeah, definitely.
One book that I talk about a lot talks about that. He calls it in the book 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I've heard Paul Benjamin call it push pull, but it's the same idea. But you don't have to give up just because she said stop there. It doesn't mean the night's over, guys. Just chill. You give her a run later and you're good to go.
It means she just needs more time to find out more things about you.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. All right. We're at an hour. This has been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much, Stirling. Where can people find you online?
Well, thank you for having me, man. Easiest place is stirlingcooper.com. That's my website. You can find everything there. STIRLING. So you spell my name. Not like the silver. I spell it differently. And my YouTube channel, if you want, I get to put out a ton of free advice in regards to anything and everything bedroom and relationship dynamics related. You just type in Stirling Cooper into YouTube and you'll find my channel there as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Stirling. I'll put all these in the description.
Awesome.
All right. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Stirling, thanks for joining me this week. It was a fun conversation. I really learned a lot from you. I'm going to check out your book. And probably some of your other ebooks as well. I don't know that I'm going to be trying to grow my dick. I don't know. Maybe I will. Fuck it. Why not? Right? Like what can it hurt? What can it hurt? Like, oh, you got a bigger dick now. Oh, that's terrible. Said nobody ever. All right, guys. It was fun. We will see you next week on Monday.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. New full episodes served hot every Monday morning on your favorite podcast platform of choice. So subscribe now. Follow Paul on social media. The links are in the description. Now, go out and get it.